Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Hey, Katie.
Hi, guys.
Hi, we have Katie Monkhouse today.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You are taking us live from your car-based studio parked in front of your studio. So,
That's right.
Close enough to catch the Wi-Fi, far enough away that prying ears and eyes leave you alone and stop asking you for help and project updates and stuff like that.
That's right. And I can see them through the window. You could just make hand signals at them from out here.
Keep working, in language from the
come on,
dugout.
guys. Yeah.
Everyone looks like they're sitting too long. It's time to get moving.
Yeah. Just firing off text messages from here.
So, Katie, I've been a huge fan and quietly stalk everything you do on the internet. But I'll start interacting more. I'm not the DM slider like Sean is. Is really good at it.
I'm a DM voice message.
We're DM besties. You got to get in there, Rebecca.
Yeah, I know, I will. And, well, I guess just tell us, give us the 1 minute snapshot of your entire life and career.
Okay, no problem.
And then we'll dig in more.
Yeah.
Then we'll do a full therapy session.
Okay, yeah. That's always necessary.
Doesn't have to. We're not timing you. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm from the East Coast. I moved out to the West Coast maybe 12 years ago. And my career was in fashion. I was a buyer and a retail manager and a merchandiser. I moved through every facet of that business for about 10 or 12 years. And then when I got more into merchandising, I started helping people with the layouts of their stores and, kind of display and that sort of thing. And one of my clients asked me why I don't do people's houses. And that was always a secret goal, but I didn't have any experience in that or schooling in that or anything. So I was well, I can't because I don't know how. And she was just do my kids' rooms for me. And she was awesome. And she was just do whatever you want. And it was really fun. And there was no process. And it was all over the place. And then it kind of made me think, this is what I want to do. And we had just bought our first house. And so we were kind of playing with that a bit.
How long ago was that?
Making it our own. That was, when was my son born? 2013. So 2014, 15-ish area. So what's that? 7 years ago. Yeah. So then at his preschool, there was a mom. Yeah. 7. The 7 year, the 7 year itch is coming up, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So there was a mom at his preschool who was an interior designer. I basically begged her to let me help her out so I could learn the ropes. And I did that for a little while and then started focusing on building an Instagram and basically just figuring out how I could get people to hire me, even though I hadn't gone to school for design or didn't have any formal training in design. And somehow it worked. I don't know. People started hiring me. Yeah. And then I was kind of made it official, I think 5 years ago and kind of registered a company and, set up a business bank account and kind of stopped being a hobbyist. Yeah. And then I think 2 years after that, we just jumped ship to move to England for 2 years, which was a curveball. It was basically when things started to take off for my business. So I was flying back and forth and doing
oh my gosh
stints, which was wild. And then we got grounded in the pandemic and ended up staying here. And then, as everybody knows, then the industry just kind of went a little bit bonkers for a couple of years, the opposite of what we thought was going to happen. Yeah. And in that time, I was in my dining table and then got a shared office and then got a small office and then moved to a big office and then decided to open a store. And it was it's been a journey.
That it's a whirlwind.
You haven't had a moment to sit and tread water as your business from the moment it started.
Yeah, because my daughter was born in 2014, so that's all the lens I can understand that whole journey, and that's a lot.
like a
That
career
sounds a
shift, a
lot.
pandemic, raising children, a new house, like
New country?
all of new
Yeah.
country. And then, oh, by the way, like
Terrible
let's add
pandemic moves.
even more business and opportunity to what would probably have felt like kind of a slow and steady increase for so many normal businesses. But then design was
For
just
so
like,
many normal
no,
people.
everyone 0 to 60 right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like our industry didn't get
Yeah.
that slow on ramp where we get better, faster, easier, more efficient. It was like, no, everybody pedal to the metal, collect your paychecks now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely the trajectory of that. It felt like it came at a good time for where my business was, but it just seemed, yeah, it was no joke. There was no breathing room.
Yeah, and you look really good doing it. Like, I just have to say, like, you have, like, a really beautiful, like, business persona, and, like, the aesthetic is very dialed and consistent. So, like, I see you, and I see your merchandising and, um, background in retail. That totally makes sense. Because
Thank you.
you started this retail arm too, which is pretty, like, that's a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I sell, like, 2 things, and it's, like, hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of born out of an opportunity because we were moving our office. Basically,
Okay.
a building came available down the street that I loved. And I was like, oh, well, if we want to move to that, we still have a year lease left on our other little shop. Like our office was in basically a retail space with like a storefront
okay.
window that we had shades on all the time. We kind of toyed with having some merchandise in there for a while. And I was like, let's just turn it into a shop for a year and see how it goes. I was already kind of committed. I really wanted to get this other lease down the street because it was a standalone building and I really wanted that. So
Okay.
I just kind of, I don't know, like came up with an idea and then like 10 minutes later, we were signing a lease for a second building.
You're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and your office is still in the original one? Is that what you're
So
saying? Or
now, yeah,
And
now
move
we've kind of
to
converted.
I just moved?
Yeah. So we moved the office down the street like 2 blocks away. And then like you might know that we've then consolidated all of it, which was a whole journey too. But there was an opportunity and I wanted to test it out. I had really always thought that we'd have a shop because that was my background. I
Wow.
just think I underestimated the amount of work and commitment level it was going to require.
Can you say more about what some of those are? Like, what are the?
Yeah.
And you don't got to get nitty gritty if you don't want to, but if you
Oh,
could
we
give us
can. We
like
can.
what are the warning categories you would tell other designers?
Right. Well, first of all, there's a huge upfront investment, right? So you're like
Uh-huh.
we didn't do a build out so much as we just, like our cabinet maker helped us with a cash wrap and we had freestanding shelves and stuff, but like you had to buy all this merchandise. So you have to be in a financial position that you can purchase all this merchandise and then you have to have
Uh-huh.
the like bandwidth commitment to be able to market it all and try to get people in the door and try to figure out how to sell it. I didn't want to do online to begin with
Uh-huh.
because I was like, oh my God, shipping, all of like breakages and how will we deal with
Uh-huh.
that? And that's like a whole thing that I just like wasn't ready for. So we kind
Yeah.
of tried to keep it just walk in local and it's a big commitment and then you have to staff it. Then you're adding more people to your payroll and then you're like, oh God, someone only bought a candle today. What are we doing?
Yeah,
So
right.
it becomes stressful, like the our design is our bread and butter and that's kind of what keeps the lights on. And then the shop it was eating into design profits because it's this thing that we want to happen and we want to keep going, but it's not going to happen overnight. And then, you have to spend time and money to get it right and to, all
Uh-huh.
these things like, the branding for it, trying to get bags made and tags and make things look consistent and pretty, which I don't think we really did a great job of to begin with. I look at other people's shops. I have that whole thing where I'm constantly looking at what other people are doing. I don't know how to turn that off of my brain. And I'm like, we are not,
Guilty.
we are not crushing this. Like we are not, it's not to the standard that I want, but I don't have
Right.
the bandwidth or just like an endless supply of funds to make it everything that I dream it to be. And just the instinct, like just wanting it to be done, like just want to open the doors
Yes.
and like people walk in and you're like, oh no, we have to build this. Like it's going to take
Over
time.
time, yeah.
We
And
have
everything
to,
has down the road consequence, or if you
Yeah.
don't do it right one time, you do it again how many more times with more time
Yeah.
and money? Like,
Yeah. And it was a big commitment. So we had like a shop manager, and then we had two. At first, it was just Mag, and she was awesome. And she was kind of like a right hand that could pick up a lot of stuff because she was like competent and had worked in other places. And then she needed less time on the floor. So we got some part time people. And then the commitment level, you start to realize like, we're
uh,
selling, a $5,500 custom console table. Like you kind of have to have either a love of or an understanding of design to be able to effectively sell that to someone.
yes.
Um, so then there was that realization that, you know, relying on people to convey that message and to have the kind of passion you have for it is really difficult. And then you realize like your name is on it. So like you want it to all be right. You want people to have this amazing customer experience. You want everything to be beautiful all the time. And you just do not have the resources, and not just financially. Like how much time do you have? I've got presentations, I've got clients, we have a design team.
Oh,
So
wait, you
yeah,
also
I
have a
think that,
family.
I have two small children. I have a husband who also works for himself. So like we don't have 9 to 5s, we have 24/7. So we are just, and I'm renovating a house for myself on top of all of that. So it was
And
just,
that eats up time and money too. So like that makes it hard when you're like,
yeah,
wait, I want to do this project for me personally. That is a big deal. But also like, yeah, where do I stop the funding to these business
yeah,
projects in order to make sure like my life is also fulfilled and
yeah,
taken care of? And you need both. Like you need all, or I
yeah.
should say, you need all of it in just varying degrees, right?
Yeah. So I think I am not a planner at all. I'm kind of just a doer, which there's some great advantages there because you don't talk yourself out of things, but you also like maybe don't allow yourself to realize the full extent of the commitment you're about to make because then you would never do it. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of just like jump first, build the parachute on the way down, assume that everything will be fine,
That sounds more
which
like
will never
Rebecca.
change.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
relatable. That's a relatable mindset.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know, but I get, like, if you use a parachute analogy, I get, like, that rush of adrenaline from it, so it
Yeah.
helps me build it faster.
And you don't have a
Yeah.
choice because a
Right.
lot of this is like, well, there is no landing if I don't make it
Yeah.
a landing.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with
Yeah.
that new form, come up with that new communication, come up with the new shop procedure. Like just get something done. We'll make it better later, but we have something and it's better than zero at all. Like
Yeah.
you don't have a
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah. And I think had I, put the brakes on to figure it out, and I think I would have probably at least planned certain things. Like I'm not good at, some people are so good at like doing a launch of something. There's like this build up and it's beautiful and there's
Mhm.
Yes.
imagery and
Yeah.
there's video and like then it comes out and there's all I'm
And
just
you already
like,
feel like you're
throw it out.
missing out before
Just
it
check it
happens.
out. Yeah. Like I can't do that because I'm the person that like I buy you a Christmas present and I want to call you and tell you immediately what that Christmas present is. Like I can't, the waiting,
Yes.
the anticipation, I'm just like, no, just do it. Just like throw it out there, just do it. So yeah, I
Also
think that like
relatable. Like, I don't want surprises. I want just give it to me now. Give me the thing
yeah,
now.
Well,
I'll
you're
be
so
just as
excited.
excited. Like,
You're so excited to
yeah,
share it.
yeah.
So, how are you feeling now?
So
where's the shop at now? How's that
we have
sitting?
it's sitting a lot prettier than it was before, physically and mentally. So I had like a big kind of come to Jesus in August. We had like a So I go to the East Coast for a lot of the summer. That's where I'm from. And so while I was there, my junior designer, who's like one of my favorite people on the planet, who will hopefully listen to this, and she knows how much I love her, gave me her notice.
Oh,
And that was my first hire. We had been together for 2 years. Like she had a baby. Like I
well,
just adore her on every level. And so that was really hard. And then 4 hours later, like our huge fall project canceled. So this was like all
Oh,
in one day.
wow.
And I hadn't booked any other projects because this was like a really large project. And we were so stoked about it. And I was like, this is like our big thing starting in September. So it was like, okay, well, now I have no junior
Wow.
designer and no new project. And so I extended my vacation for a week because I was avoiding reality.
Yeah.
As
It was
one
like,
does.
oh my God, this is a perfect time to reset and,
Yeah.
focus on me for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. And then came home and then I really spent some time with it. And I was like, it already feels quieter, which I know that we talked about before the episode that like the inquiries are slower than they were 8 months ago, 9 months ago. The shop was taking up a lot of bandwidth and feeling difficult. I think like the next day, one of my shop girls also gave me her notice. So I was like, what else you got? Just throw it all at me. We're going to deal with this.
Oh,
And then I had
Come
this
on,
moment
universe.
of like, yes, it was like a whole thing. And I kind of was like, well, if we were to burn everything down and start over, what would I want this to look like? And that is
Yeah.
kind of the moment that I had because I was like, something's not right. It doesn't like, I love the idea of West Park, but it doesn't feel like what I want it to feel like. I love our design
Wow.
studio, but like we had lost our other junior designer the year before, and I kind of decided consciously not to rehire a second junior designer because I wanted to take it. I just wanted to have like a slower year. It was just like 2020 was wild, 2021 was wild, and I was like 2022. We're going to take on a little bit less projects. We're going to diversify into retail. I just don't, I don't need this massive design team. So, and then I realized like, well, now I
Okay.
put my eggs all in that basket. And that basket is gone. So I know junior designer. And it was like, well, what do we want this to look like? Like, what do I want my business to look like? Having everything riding on like one big project and having everything riding on having this one like right hand person who was everything just felt
Well,
wrong. So
Okay.
we kind of looked at it and
like
decided,
risky, like precarious.
yeah, precarious, exactly. And also like nothing really felt connected. I felt like, our design team never had anything to do with West Park, which seems silly to me because like a lot of our custom furniture comes from our designs and it just felt really disjointed. Like I had these two businesses that didn't talk to each other. And so I just had this moment and I was like, oh, we have to close West Park and move it into our large office space as a showroom because I need to be closer to it. So I was sharing my office space with my design wife, my work wife, who has another design studio called Mill Road Studio, and she's amazing. And when I got this larger office, I was like, why don't you set up in here too? Because it's huge and I don't need all this space. And it was great. And then I had to go to her and tell her, I've had this realization and I need the whole space because I need to close the other space. I can't have two spaces. I can't have this much overhead. I can't feel this disconnected from one part of my business. I just needed to simplify in a big way. And just like, it was really just like, how do we just start over? It was like a big reset and figuring out like,
Wait, and that was just this
then
summer.
it was like, August. Yeah.
Like quarter.
Yeah.
It's like
Like-
this quarter.
Like 10 minutes ago.
That summer 2022.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wait,
it was
so
a big,
now, how many people are on your team right now?
So then it was like looking at it. So the other part of burning everything down was like the team doesn't work in the structure. How can we fix it? So I've had a studio manager for a couple of years, Jordan, who just like keeps things running, like all of the scheduling and figuring out like just because I will triple schedule myself every day if I don't. Like she makes sure that everyone's schedules make sense.
Rebecca,
And like,
I've found my
you guys are
design twin.
kindred. Why are you not in your DMs with each other more?
I know. Oh, we're
I
gonna be. We're
know.
gonna be.
I'm saying.
So she's a gift. She was like executive assistant. So she was also my assistant buyer back in the day when I worked in fashion.
Okay.
So like she reappeared in my life after being like executive assistant in like big tech companies and needed a break and wanted something that was like a little bit more
nice.
warm and fuzzy. So she's been incredible. So it was just me, her, and my my design assistant was Rebecca as well, and Becca. And so I was like, we need to like break things out. So I decided, what do I need? I need to make West Park work. So I can't do that on my own. I need to. Do you see my seats moving right now? I'm in my car. Sorry.
No.
It just like moved me closer to you. So I was like, what are the positions? I need someone to help with marketing because somebody needs to be shouting West Park from the rooftops all the time. And I don't have that in me right now.
Yeah.
We got a marketing manager, and then Becca's my junior designer was like kind of half junior designer, half project manager. She literally did everything. And I was like, no more of that. We need a project manager and a junior designer. We need to separate those roles because I can't have all those eggs in one basket. So I hired Cami, who is our project manager, who does no design. She is she's operational. She's so buttoned up. She's incredible. She like fit right in really easily. And then I have a design assistant right now. I don't have a junior designer. That's the next hire. But like I said, we need to see an uptick in projects before we're going to start adding some more people to the payroll. So that's what our team looks like now after like reassessing everything. We ended up with more people, but or actually, because we had like shop people before.
But like really organized
Yes.
roles and responsibilities instead of jack of all trades type of roles. It sounds like it's really intentionally, this is what you do. Do not get distracted by design. Like don't let your priorities get dictated by a design project if you're the project manager. And if you're in marketing, it's great. You need to know what we're doing, but you also don't need to ask about like procurement and order management.
Yep. And she, she'll come in one day a week. We go through product and, we do the calendar of what's going to happen, promotion, newsletter. She came up with a newsletter for us. I've never been a bloggy person, but I was like, I'm okay with a newsletter where she highlights our artists and our vendors. So it just feels like that is like tick off the list because that was me trying to do all that before, which like I was failing miserably at it. And then like Cami being project manager and not having to split her time between design and procurement and like keeping things running is great. And then at some point I will get a junior designer that is just design. Like I need someone with strong drafting skills and who, kind of gets you setting up, can help sourcing. And then Kama, our design assistant, who's in design school now, will be hopefully, cultivated through this. And then maybe when she is done with design school, will stay on with us. So it just feels like everything makes more sense. So now West Park is the front quarter of our office, or front third. And we kind of created this division and we built it out. So it feels more permanent. Before it was kind of like the shop front and we had, bookshelves and stuff with things on it, but we did a real build out and it's beautiful. I think it feels so much more like my style. And now it faces the street and the window's beautiful. And we redid the plantings and we have signs up and it's like, oh, this is it. This is the business we're looking for. Yeah.
And is the shop always open or is it?
No. So now we're by appointment. On Fridays, we have someone here with the doors open through December. And we'll see how that goes in January. So it's not a huge walk-in business, but you can book an appointment on our website. And then the good thing about that is, one, like we're usually here because our design office is here. So now like on the days where people are here, we just leave the door open. People can wander in. But it's also like I'm here. I was never at the store. So like if somebody wants to look at our locally made custom Willow coffee table and I want to talk what the different dimensions we can make it in and hear all the different samples and I can sketch things for them. It just makes more sense. Like it should be me. Like I designed it and I feel really passionate about it.
Yeah.
So being able to talk to people, I think resonates more. And I think we've been just as successful, if not more, having it as more of like a closed showroom than just like a random store you can walk into.
Yeah. And then you don't have to have just somebody sitting there hoping to get more than one sale a day.
Like twiddling their thumbs. Come buy a candle. Yeah.
And that was the other thing. Like I felt like the walk-in sales at the store were always really low price point items. So then I'm finding myself like trying to find these little filler pieces where what we wanted to focus on was local art, our redone vintage pieces, and our custom furniture. And like, that's not a walk-in off the street and buy a $6,800 pair of vintage chairs. Like that's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. And, we want to talk about the provenance of the chairs and where they came from and the artisans that like helped us refinish them. And, it just, that was always the focus. I didn't want like a store of tchotchkes. I wanted something that felt more personal and more like aligned with what we do.
And supports your design business. Like
totally.
I'm assuming, does a design business like purchase items out of there as well if they fit the client project?
So that was another, that's obviously like the other good thing about having a brick and mortar is all of a sudden you're a stocking dealer and you're no longer a designer pricing. So even though like the only vendor that we carry that's like a wholesale vendor is we carry Aftercraft because I just love their stuff. But all the other vendors that we use regularly, Four Hands Noir, all of them, like we can get them at stocking dealer because
Yeah.
we have a brick and mortar space. So that helps the margins, which helps the bottom line. And that's also a big benefit of having it. But I realized I sold myself that a little bit when we first decided to have a store. I'm like, oh, this will be great because we can make so much more money. But I think like the cost of
It also
having the
costs a
store.
lot.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I was like as honest with myself about like what having a store cost.
And you're doing online sales now, correct?
Yeah, so we added e-commerce as kind of, I mean, that's another thing that I look at other people, like we need to someday we will have someone build that out the right way. But for now, it's a cute little website, and it does, people buy things on there, which always surprises me. You see those memes like, oh, a small business owner like does a happy dance when you bet, like that's literally me. Like someone buys
Oh, yeah.
something and I'm on
Yes.
Slack, like the whole team, and I'm like, oh my God, someone bought something on the website.
We
Totally.
sold
It's
a
like-
table. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, like every time it amazes me.
Turn notifications on. Yeah.
I know, it literally pings me on my Apple Watch, like when someone makes a purchase. It's like,
it adds to the motivation factor to have
Yeah.
all of that coming in and to be like, oh, it's working. Even if we're still thinking we want more, obviously, or we can
Yeah.
handle more, it definitely is showing you like people are watching, people are clicking, people are looking at what we're
Yeah.
doing. Rebecca and I have talked about this because we were hoping for more consumer-based activity versus client-based. Like,
Yeah.
and part of it is just the waffling, the back and forth, the hemming and the hawing. And I feel like that's just a lot of consumer behavior. And I'm worn down from it because I think we've already been through the hem and haw as designers. We've narrowed sources, narrowed quality, narrowed
Yeah.
everything. But a lot of consumers are still just lost in a sea of stuff. And so they're
there's so
looking
much
for
out
someone to
there.
help them
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. You have a showroom at your office too, Sean, right?
Yeah. So Rebecca and I both have some showroom capability with and because of my stocking dealer with my line, I'm also able to sell to designers
Oh, right. Yeah.
for like Norwalk furniture, and Rebecca's is too. And then we also have consumer capabilities that we would love to see increase when client projects are slow. It would be great to have that other revenue stream filling in the gaps for us.
Yeah. I think that was also like a motivation, is just diversifying revenue, like not having to rely on client work all the time, because that's exhausting.
Yeah, because it seems like, the sort of maybe lie I told myself is, oh, I could just sell one sofa to somebody and make a great margin on it, and that'll be easy.
Yeah.
But you're not selling one sofa to one person. You're selling the idea of thinking about buying a sofa to 1,000
Yeah.
people before you sell the one. So
Yeah.
it's a whole
I think that we've
challenge.
all had that experience, the three of us here. It's the whole like build it and they will come, like offer it and they'll buy it, is not a reality. It's a lot harder than that.
Nope. Or they tell them about it once and then you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't have to keep
Gotta do it
explaining to
every
people the
day.
quality of this object that I'm selling, because once they heard me tell them once, they will always remember and know about it
No.
and come
Yeah.
to me when they want it. Like that's not true.
Yeah. And then
It's like a
they tend to
constant
want,
drumbeat.
yeah. And then like what, oh, but what rug should I get with it? And it's not necessarily like where they want to show you the swatches of the other stuff. And then next thing you know, I'm like, wait, am I designing your room? Like for the cost of the margin on that one piece?
You are.
Now you're the free West Elm designer.
Yeah. So like really separating yourself from that is difficult, because I get sucked into it pretty easily, which is why we have design
Because
sessions.
it's
we like
enjoyable to us.
design.
Yeah.
We want to do it. We do design. And you're just like, well, it'll only take a second. And then suddenly that second is multiplied by a whole room of objects and things and stuff.
Yeah,
and
That
it's
they
everywhere.
may not buy. Like you don't have an agreement that they're going to even buy it.
Totally.
So
Right.
so you created a new service to kind of help with that, like fit those clients,
kind of
right?
thought that kind of bridges the two things. So also like design sessions was an idea because of the slowdown that we have been feeling on our end. We do still get a good amount of inquiries, but qualified inquiries is like a totally different story. So inquiries that are projects that are what we would normally take on. So we wanted a way of capturing that interested party, but maybe not in a way that, we're taking on the one bathroom or the two bathrooms. And the next thing you know, it's like, we all know that those small projects are just as difficult as like a whole home project. And we just wanted a way of being able to have that experience to kind of like democratizes design. You can come in, we have this massive materials library. We go through your design with you. We're not traveling to you. We are doing this for an hour. And then we send you like a wrap up of everything. And then it's like, we wish you well. And then it's on you to execute it or not.
Okay. We wish you well. How conceptually does the we wish you, I hear that we wish you well works. Have you had any feedback on that so far, or like beta testing where you're like, oop, we're going to have to make some adjustments? Like, how's that going?
So we have done 3 of these so far. We launched it, I think, at the end of October, and we just did one today. And the one today is the first one that we were like, I don't know if she like left. I don't think she was going to leave with what she wanted, because I think she wanted us to design the entire thing, like sit there and physically make every decision and draw everything. Where like all of our materials are very much like, this is a consultation. This is like idea building, just giving you resources. And then it's on you to tie it together with a bow and execute. But the other ones have been fine. I mean, one ran really over, but she's already like, I'm booking another one in January. And we kind of put a cap on it. Like, you can book 3 per project, because I don't want it to cannibalize full service design. But that client is great because she has a big renovation she wants to do in the summer that she wants our help with. But they've moved into the house, and she's like, I don't know where to put the furniture, what colors to paint, like what things I should buy that would then make sense with this renovation that we want you to help with in the summer. So that's an interesting take on it, where she's like, it's like the pre-design. And like, maybe she never hires us. Who knows? I mean, I don't think she's like telling me the story, but she was kind of like, we wanted to hire you for a while. We finally have this house. We want to do like the kitchens and bathrooms and that kind of stuff as a big renovation. But we want to make sure the stuff that we're doing right now isn't going to have to be redone. So we like the idea of you weighing in on it, as far as like, she wants to reupholster her couch and like fix up the fireplace a little bit, and these kind of things that we just gave ideas on, that she in her mind thinks that will then still work with whatever we do down the line.
And if she's lucky, it all will.
Like, well, and at least you'll like it. You're not fighting some terrible choice.
So, I mean, and I think, there's been people that come in and they're like, oh, we like the idea of this. A lot of our stuff in our shop is customizable. And they're like, well, would this work with this? And I'm like, well, book a design session. We can like hash it all out and then sell you the product, hopefully. And, the idea is that then there's an avenue for people who want to ask all those questions and want to get in the nitty gritty about if that sofa is going to work with everything. So we have a place to turn instead of like constantly giving free advice, because the margin on that sofa is not enough.
It's not.
Yeah, I have a similar service with my showroom business, and it's awesome. Like, I really believe in having not a lot, but different tiers for different people, just because I kind of know a lot of people, and I feel like I don't always want to say no to everybody. But I do need to feed my family. So, and not detract from the clients that are paying me. So that's awesome. So you're still kind of getting the feel for that. And are you the type of person that iterates, like tries it out for a while and then makes adjustments? Or
we'll make the adjustments. We were talking today about some of the onboarding for that, and if we can be more specific, because like the last, the Saturday one, she came in with like 7 different spaces that she wanted to do, or 5 or whatever it was. But it was like, we can probably tackle like 1 or 2.
1 hour.
Like, ma'am, please do not get crazy. Like, how long we spend hundreds of hours on client projects. How could we possibly do your whole house in an afternoon? Like, no way.
Right. Yeah. And I think partially it was like to get the big picture of everything, but I just don't want people to leave disappointed. That's like the biggest thing. Like, I want them to feel like there's value there, and that they walked away with a lot of great answers, but like also to understand that like this is not a design your house in an hour situation.
Definitely wouldn't be. They would definitely leave disappointed if they thought that could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you make
Exactly.
it look so easy. They think a lot of people want to believe. Like, it does look so easy. It
Yeah.
must be so natural. And it's
Yeah.
like, but the decision matrix we go through in our minds of the perfect tile, shape, size, color, pattern, texture, like
Right. And how
all those
that
unicorns that we hunt
totally.
for in our heads don't come as quickly as it might look on the internet.
Yeah. Or like the initial ideation of it could be quick, but then like the reality of how does this transition? And then how does that play back to what's happening over here? And there's so much more information that needs to go into it to make it
Uh-huh.
like a fully realized design. But I love the idea of giving people a foundation and then letting them kind of run with that. Yeah. I mean, it was just, you know, another little thing because our full service design, we have pretty high minimums on it. So it's lately a lot of the projects just coming in. They're just not gonna get there. And whether or not we adjust that minimum going into next year, we'll see.
If you're going to be adjusting the minimum, or if you're thinking that because calls have been slower and people are kind of maybe leveling out as we head into the end of 2022, do you feel like that's driving that in your mind? Is it like an emotional kind of decision,
Yeah.
or
Well, yeah. So I'm trying desperately to like not just, give into this idea that it's just gonna get slow next year because all the talk of the economy and like we're in the Bay Area and so much of our clients are tech money
uh-huh.
clients and tech is getting laid off left and right. So trying to not contract too much around it and go like we have to shrink to fit whatever's going to show up next, but at the same time be
Right.
realistic, like it's not a hobby, like I support my family along with my husband, I mean this
Uh-huh.
isn't like it's not just like a fun little gig that I like to do on the side.
No, it's not, and it's
Right.
not a charity. Like, you,
Yeah.
it needs to make money.
Yeah. So and we have a team and we have a space and there's overhead these days, and so if we have to take slightly smaller projects for a little while, it won't kill me, but it might almost.
W-
Look,
Well, but you'll be still going. I mean, I think like
Yeah.
having to make even more drastic decisions would hurt more.
Yeah.
What does your ideal project look like? Like you don't have to get into financials, but like
Yeah.
scope of work, what their
Yeah. I mean, I'll get
ideal
into whatever you
ideas
want to get
are.
into, but ideally, we like to do a whole home project. I think we've been
Uh,
doing a lot more of those lately. And at the very minimum, there is a large chunk of construction and then a lot of furnishings. Usually, our
mhm.
whole home construction projects also have like a majority of their furniture as well. And like that's really lighting my fire these days. So it's sad to
Yeah.
think of going backwards
yeah.
from that. And even some that are like, oh, we'll think about the furniture once we get through the construction phase. Most of them by the like halfway through, are like, just do the furniture too. Cause like we're not gonna put our old crap
Do
back
you
in here.
require any do you require any furnishings?
We don't if it was like a large renovation project. So usually our minimum is $50,000 in design fees for a project. And so
Okay.
Okay.
Sean, we have the same billing model that I've done this for a while where we're flat fees for design and then we're hourly through project management.
Mhm.
So we scope out the project and then we dictate the fees for that. And then once the design is signed off on, we move into project management and we will bill hourly for that. So we just want to make sure that the scope of work is going to hit those minimums. And we've just found that like anything less than that, it's it's just the same amount of work. We have a team and
Yeah, you're gonna
it
do.
just doesn't it,
Yeah,
it
you're gonna do
doesn't add up.
all that, have all the overhead, but not the financial gain won't be with it. And certainly,
Right.
if someone wanted to pay your design fee minimum, but do a smaller project, okay,
I only
but not that's not gonna
I
happen.
wanna I wanna live in that reality. Yeah, for sure. But we've
Yeah,
changed that over the years. It was 25,000 for a while and then the projects were getting bigger and bigger and we just thought we're not gonna go backwards. But, we'll see what the next year will take. But I think we don't really have a minimum scope as long as your scope is going to add up to these minimum fees. But yeah, that kind of takes we don't like punch list projects where it's like, okay, we're gonna redo the kitchen, but then we want like, just new faucets in this bathroom and just, you know,
Mhm.
a sofa for the living room, but we want to keep everything else. Like ideally it's at least a whole space. If it's not a whole,
yeah.
like every space that we're touching, we're doing the whole thing.
Creatively, it's not as fulfilling. You're like, oh, well, we're not doing the hallway, but you want me to add a light there for your lighting order. That's different than like me only piecemealing together this minimum purchasing number through a shopping list throughout your house. I'm like, what about a door hardware? Does that count? And you're like, no, please,
No.
like,
Yeah, this
don't
isn't
make me
not
do
a la
this.
carte.
Like,
We can't just choose. Yeah, pick and choose. But we haven't had an issue with it up until, recently, where the project inquiries just seem a bit smaller. But it's been mostly like, we're doing a big renovation and we need someone to help with it. And then like the minimum's not an issue. And then they end up adding furniture or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's all coming right back.
It's a constant experiment.
Yeah. It's just, there's a little bit of a fear around the economy, and then the holidays kicked in, and then, Q1 is usually busy.
Yeah. I just had a meeting with my financial advisor, and he said, I mean, we're going to hit a recession, but like, it's nothing like 2008. Like,
yeah,
it's not even close. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully people just don't freak out, stay, like they just decide they're going to stay put, renovate what they have.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot too. That it's like with interest rates going up, you might not be as likely to go buy a new house, but you might want to rip yours apart and make it better. So I feel like there's
at least significant portions.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that could be where that ends up landing. But I think the idea of hopefully having like this retail component in the design sessions means that we can still keep our larger full service projects. We just need less of them so that we're not like all of a sudden just taking anything that ends in the inbox.
Yeah, one powder bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the pillows for the lounge.
Yeah, that's been the like part where I'm like, I think I pick up on that is what Rebecca and I have talked about before, which is this idea of if something did happen, as designers, we're going to pull out whatever hoops we got to. We're going to jump through it to keep our businesses afloat, to keep our teams afloat, to keep our lives afloat.
Right.
It's not as ideal because we know that there's stress, anxiety, pressure, like all of that comes with it, which at some point you start saying, but is that worth it? Or would I rather, like at some point, like for me, I hate saying it this way, but it is do I keep if push came to shove, do I keep my sanity or my design assistant?
Right.
And I'm gonna, like at some point, some designers will have to decide, like, do I keep my sanity or do I start taking on 1 or 2 room projects again?
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, it's not a forever decision if you have to do it. It's just, it'd be great if we don't hit that point. And so I want to believe in the abundance of the universe, that it's out there. They're waiting for us. They're going to call us.
Open to receive.
Like, they're going to call.
Give me all the woo-woo.
And totally. And when we're freaking out, like we are lucky that we are in positions to we have so many tools to do. We could just take on pillow projects if you had to. Like, not
totally.
saying
like,
that's the next step, but
not that anyone here is doing
there's
that.
a lot of steps.
Yeah.
There's a lot of steps to be taken and different things to try, and they're most likely going to be temporary. But
but I do think it's smart for everyone to kind of be looking at that right now and thinking about, what that might look like next year from just like a planning perspective, not like a freak out, but just, if it does get quiet,
like, have your backup plans written down.
Yeah.
Like,
what would you try next?
Break glass in case of emergency. What are you going to do? Like,
yes.
Yeah. And I won't get there, but
no, I don't.
I believe it. I believe we're not headed that way. I don't see that possibility. And then every time I think it does get slow, like for me, it has been, calls were slow through like October, November. And then I had 3 all at once in December that were like pretty qualified.
Same.
And then it's the same people who are kind of like, well, yes, but like also I think we got crazy thinking we were going to give you our attention and like really make this commitment pre-year end. And so I'm like, that's cool too, because I'm about to be off for the holidays too. I'm happy to talk to you in the new year, but at least now I have this like
pipeline.
At least we've had discussions, and I went on a few consults, and there's some movement happening. And if it takes them until after they file their taxes, fine. If it takes them through February, fine. Like at least it's out there. So now I have the optimism heading into the end of the year that it's like, no, even if they're an anomaly, there's someone else. Someone's going to pick up the phone.
Yeah. Guys, we're going to be all right.
I hope so.
We are.
But like we said in the beginning of this, before we were recording, like it's good to talk about it. I feel like every time I see my designer friends, I'm like, what's up? Are we quiet or are you guys good or what's going on? Because I mean, like we said,
is it me?
everyone
Like,
looks busy on Instagram. I know, like it's me, isn't it? Nobody wants to hire me. I'm terrible.
But I have noticed like people aren't busy like they were last year and the year before. So, which honestly though feels really good. Like
I know we were just saying that too.
It's felt really nice to just like take a minute and not feel like I'm rushing around all the time.
I know. Someone said to me, are you quiet or is this just like back to normal how it was like pre 2 years ago? And you're like, it's a bit of both. But like, we're so used to like, I mean, I think in the peak we were getting like 10 emails a week of people that were like, we're ready to rip our house apart. I'm like, okay, guys.
And they're like, we want it tomorrow. And you're like, oh, you're so cute. Like,
I know.
No,
like, we're
we can't even.
Like 10 years. We can't even chat with you yet.
Can't even talk to you. There's not even a contractor who will answer my emails. Like,
I mean, even my contractors, though, a couple of my contractors have been like, what projects do you have coming up? You need us? And I'm like, whoa.
Finally, the tables have turned a little bit.
I know. I'm like, can you guys lower your prices now? It's like, it's crazy.
Seriously, like, I don't know about you. I'm just throwing this out. I had one that was $1,200 a linear foot for custom cabinetry.
Oh, I've had $1,800. And that's just, and the linear foot is just bottoms or uppers. So it's really $3,600 if you have base and uppers.
And it just doesn't feel, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't feel right about this.
Yeah.
So
we were getting bids last summer or this past summer for projects that like so my dad is a carpenter on the East Coast. He does all kinds of work. So I grew up with that. So I feel like I grew up in job sites, but he will renovate bathrooms or put an addition on someone's house. He's like a one-man band. He can do the whole thing. But like it was like an ongoing joke. I'd call him and I'd be like, Dad, listen to this one. I'm like, a kitchen and 3 bathrooms, new floors, 2 built-ins, 1.2 million. And he's like, what is going on out there? I'm like, I don't know, Dad. It's like the gold rush. You should get out here.
He got the wrong retirement plan. Yeah. Like,
I'm like, over it. He's like, they could just buy a house for that. I'm like, well, you can't hear,
but you can.
But it is, but it's wild. And like it's hard when you've done all that design work and your clients see that. And then they're like, cool. So should we just cut half of the project out or it's brutal.
You're gutted at the end of something like that because all the work is there. The dream is there, the fantasy, also the revenue stream for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, realistically, how much do we do? Like the money is a real number and there is a limit to those finances.
Yeah. And like, you can't tell someone like,
value.
Just figure it out.
I don't want to spend.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Especially when like you already bought
we don't have money, but.
Yeah, point. Yeah, if someone was like, well, this is what it'll cost. Do you care enough to spend all of your hard-earned money on that? Like at some point, a remodeled kitchen or a remodeled bath does lose its value for you because you're like, that's a new car or that's a college education. Like,
for 2.
That money does have a trade-off. Yeah, I mean, no joke. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like with house prices here, like you usually do get it back. But then when people start seeing like interest rates go up and house prices are stabilizing, and then they're like, well, how much more money am I going to put into this place? So yeah, you kind of have to work around it. Because of our billing model, like we do, like if someone says, I want you to design all of this, we're like, we can design everything. But, if you don't execute it, that's totally fine. Our revenue comes from the design phase. If they decide not to implement, 3 of the 5 spaces we designed, it doesn't really.
You've already been paid.
Yeah. And I always tell them like, you could implement these later, or you have the design, the drawings, all the material selections, like everything's ready to go. But yeah, I feel like it's heartbreaking for people. To be fair, they always end up doing all of it. I feel like they just dig deep and
they figure it out.
They're like, I can't live without this
what's
now.
the option? You're already going to get permits and drawings and contractors are on the hook. And then you want to shave off like 2 rooms. Like good luck finding the contractor for that later. So I feel like
I know.
We almost strong arm our clients when we have to, but it's not just us. It's like there's a whole lot of factors. So I don't want to be like we have hostages here, but
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you
We
kind of
do.
have to
We
coach
kind of
them through
do.
it, which is tough. Actually, Sean, you said something on the podcast recently when you were talking about billing, which I just recently changed my thing because you have pre-construction in hourly and not as part of your like design fees. Did you say that?
Yes.
Was you right?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's
Yep.
something that we've just done because lately, because of these bids, like we end up doing like 5 contractor walkthroughs and like reviewing bids and talking them off the ledge.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, wait, how this isn't design. Why is this in my design fees? Like this is
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or like the like conceptual, but what if we cut this?
yeah,
What happens meeting where you're just like, are we redesigning the kitchen or am I just giving you scenarios? And that
yeah,
it's sort of like consultative time again, where I'm like, I'm
yeah,
happy to pipe in on this, but I do have to keep getting paid for this if we're gonna
yeah,
do what if planning. And we've already started like a permit set with an architect. Like, I mean, we're still spending money. We're still using
yeah,
time. So
yeah. Yeah,
it's
I thought that
it's
that was
gotta
really
I
smart
gotta come
because
back to it.
it's kind of I feel like the flat fee design works for anything within your control, but like someone's desire
Uh-huh.
to have 17 bids is not in your control. Like you could say like we'll do 2 contractor
Oh my
walkthroughs,
Oh
but
my
at that
God.
God,
point just
no.
like pull it out of that. You can yeah, the flat fee has to be for things in your control. And like we can control how long it takes us to
Yeah.
design and if it takes us too long, it's kind of on us. But like, you know, that kind of thing. The last one was a doozy. And I'm like, oh, when I heard you say that, I'm like, of course, that's what we need to pull that out. That like
I
can't
mean,
be
it
part of
took me a
it.
while to get there too, in fairness. Like it was
Yeah.
the why am I still what are we talking about still? And we keep going round
Yeah.
and around on this plan. And I'm in one sense, you're like, well, I'm happy to have the work. And then meanwhile, you're frustrated by it. So the only way for me
Yeah.
to get rid of the frustration was like, I just have to charge. And I've talked to other designers who also charge more for those like let's go
Oh,
back
yeah.
conversations. So instead of charging
Yeah.
them up
The pain in
front,
the ass tax.
they
Yeah.
actually say like my billable rate is 1.25 times or 1.5 times if
That's
we're revising this stuff later.
punitive.
Wow.
Yeah. And they've put like
That's bold. I love that.
you'll get three
Yeah.
bids. And if you want me to collect more bids, I'm time and a half. Like I'm overtime now.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
And
annoyed.
now I'm annoyed, and now
Yeah.
you as
Yeah.
the client have to decide, is this really worth it for you? Like you're gonna toss time and a half at me, or you're just gonna look at those 3 bids and be good with one of them. Like there
Yeah.
is, and I think part of that is the if I make it feel kind of punitive, people won't push that boundary unless they really want to. Like they really
Yeah.
gotta feel like there's a better bid out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
well,
when
we're
we used
not
to bill hourly, it's like that when people ask you for like another option that's less expensive and you're like, you realize you're paying me hourly to find you another option that's less
Yeah.
expensive.
We were just talking about that.
you
Like
will buy like you could buy 2 of these by the time I'm done
yeah.
resourcing it for you.
Yeah. You're like,
Like
it's going to take me
And
just
so
40
much
yeah.
of
hours to
that,
find you another one.
and so like some of it, so much of that is just like specific people's personality types. And like I had
Yes.
one client, she described herself as someone who likes to chase the rabbit. Like she has to go up and down and around and back and again. Like that's like her decision making process, but it's unhealthy. It's
So
annoying.
awful. That sounds like my
That's
worst
And like
nightmare.
just
Yeah.
let yourself like trust this process and be okay
Yeah.
with the first thing. Like it's okay. Like you didn't like get screwed or
Yeah.
one's
I always try
swindling
to tell
you.
people, totally. I always try to tell clients, like, I'm only showing you this one because I've looked at all the other ones. Like, if you really want me to
and I've
dig
seen
back
them
and
all
find you
over
other,
years.
yeah. And when they're like, well,
Yeah,
could we see 2 to 3 more options? I'm like, you can, but like, it has to work with all these other elements. And yeah, we have a client like that. And then it comes back around and they're like, okay, let's just go with the original. And then we have the conversation like, trust will help us a lot in this situation. Like, just trust that we've already taken into account all the information you gave us, all of the inspiration images. We've looked at all the different things with different price points. We've seen how they work with what we've already designed. And like, we've landed on this one thing.
Well,
You
sure.
and
should
it's the
be
best.
grateful that
only
you
need
didn't have to go
one.
through that process. Yeah.
Yes. That's why you paid us.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first started, I feel like I used to give people like 3 room designs per room. Cause I'm like, which
No,
one do
I
you
don't
want? And now it's like, we just present one thing. It's like, we've distilled everything down to this. And like, if you want
And you
one
probably
more
have an
option.
alternative if they really hate the
Yeah.
wallpaper. You're like, I've got another one already that I'm already imagining that I've been wanting to
Yeah.
use. Here you go. Like,
Yeah. I just
It's
think
ready.
like, I think the reason people pay us is to not have to make the decisions. Like we've already
Uh-huh.
taken that
Yes,
part of it out for you, ideally.
definitely. Ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still looking for ways to screen that person out.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
if you
hard to
find it,
see.
we'll let you know.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
will sign up for that like newsletter extra.
Yeah,
If you're
is this a sellable survey that we can just send
Yeah.
people to,
Yeah.
and it's a psychological assessment
Do
of
you
whether
like
they'll do
to
that to
chase the
us?
rabbit?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
Katie, this has been really amazing. And thank you for being so forthwith with all of the information about your journey and where your company has been, and what's next for Katie Monkhouse Interiors and West Park Home. Can you share with our listeners more about where you would want them to follow along and keep up with you?
Sure. We have our Instagram is just at Katie Monkhouse Interiors, and then Shop West Park Home, like our West Park website and Instagram, or Shop West Park Home. So you can find us there. We do offer trade discount if anybody's interested. I mean, a lot of our stuff, fortunately, is locally made and local artists, and we don't necessarily offer the discount on that, but we've already done the sourcing and distilled it down to really beautiful pieces. So maybe that is worth it. And I won't tell
The
your client
curation's
if
already
you-
done for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I won't tell your client if you want to mark it up. That's fine with me. And if you're local here, like we do custom furniture with our furniture maker, if that's something you have a resource for, we can partner with people. So
They just got to come on down to beautiful San Anselmo, California.
that's right. That's right.
I gotta
Right
come
on the
out.
main street.
I gotta come out. I'm not very far.
Yeah, you aren't
Yeah,
very
Rebecca,
far.
you're closer than I'm going to be.
I know, but you guys can.
I'll make
you
a road
guys can have
trip.
like a meetup in the middle here. I guess we're not really in the middle, Sean, but Yeah.
I said already floated to Rebecca a Bay Area meetup just because we have
Yes.
friends of the podcast and former and hottie listeners, and they're already there.
and there's like
It's just we gotta
10,000
find the right
designers per
place to go
capita in
meet
the Bay
everyone.
Area.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like the highest way, the fastest way to get to our common denominator.
Come on over.
Let's do it. I'm down.
I'll host you
Come on.
here.
And
Have a
hotties,
nice
if you're
big
listening and
space.
you're like, Bay Area meetup, yeah, we'll put you on the list. Like, get in the DMs. Like, when we get it organized, we'll put you
Yeah.
on the list.
2024, guys, it's definitely going to happen. Actually, we're also
Okay,
like
good.
2023 is fine.
2023 might work because
Yeah,
it's
we
still
might have lots of
early.
space.
I think January 2023, there's going to be a lot of communication.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good. People are going to come out ready to
Yeah.
make
Ready
some
to-
choices.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
hit it. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much for being
thank
on
you
the show.
so much, Katie.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So until next time.
Stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.